It's music, but it's magic too. I mean, one minute you're in a crowd of people and the next moment you're immersed in music. That's what artists can do.
It's been very fun and just exciting to see what can happen when somebody has a clear dream and just keeps going. It's really exciting to see how Monroeville has been rewarded with this.
It is a magical moment when you're witnessing live music. There is nothing like being there as it's happening. That's what top-of-the-line musicians are able to do, and the rest of us can only sit back and enjoy. And it's pretty nice to be able to sit back and enjoy.
It's very pleasing to be able to sit here and say, we've done a lot with jazz in Monroeville.
The Monroeville Jazz Festival started with Chuck Somerville. Chuck is a gentleman who happened to really love jazz. He took it and he ran with it.
I became interested in jazz in 1958. I was with the United States Air Force and stationed in the Royal Air Force Base outside of Oxford, England. We had a young librarian for the base library, and she started a jazz appreciation group. So I went to the first session, which led to the second session, which led to the third session. She then said, now we're going to go listen to some live jazz. I said, well, that's fine, but who are we going to see and hear? Well, it's a young jazz group from America. It's called the Dave Brubeck Quartet. I fell in love with the guy's music, and it was a tremendous change in my life.
People from my generation were exposed to jazz constantly because jazz was, and I'm talking about people who were watching TV in the early 60s. Jazz artists were still on the variety shows that were all over TV in the early 60s. And you saw Duke Ellington, you saw Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald. The giants of a previous era were still very much a part of American pop culture in the early 60s.
Growing up, we only had one jazz album in my home, and I memorized every song on that jazz album. So I just listened and listened and listened and gleaned as much as I could, and I found a freedom in the music. There was something so different and special about jazz.
I'm a member of the St. Bernadette's Roman Catholic Church, and we were trying to raise enough money to buy a rebuilt pipe organ. We're about $10,000 short, and I went to our pastor, Father Michael, and said, I've got an idea to raise that final 10, and have an evening of cool jazz and charge for it. Al Dow and Etta Cox were our performers.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was fun. I hadn't thought about that in years.
Etta Cox, what a tradition here in the Pittsburgh area. Once again, we try to highlight artists that are homegrown, and Etta is a person that brings a lot of soul to the music that she brings.
Some of my high school girlfriends from St. Joe were coming to Pittsburgh to visit. And so my dad, he got a limousine for us up there. He said, you can't look like you're really doing terrible. I'll get a limousine for you and those girls. And so we got this limousine and we went out to that church, and they're all Catholic. These girls are all Catholic. They were just so impressed that I was singing at this church.
The following year, Father Michael called me and said, hey, Joe Negri has just written a jazz mass and he wants to come to our church to perform. Can you handle that? We pulled that off. We filled the sanctuary that night with people. After that event, I said, now it's time to put together a jazz festival. I had no idea what I was doing.
I give Chuck all the credit in the world. He's an engineer. He's a computer guy. He's a tech guy. And he, with nothing more than passion for the music and love for Monroeville, he started the Monroeville Jazz Festival.
So I put an ad in Times Extra looking for people who might be interested in forming a jazz festival.
And he asked if I wanted to be the MC, and I said, sure, really happy to be involved. And it was something that was a natural yes, and enjoyed every one of those since the first. And after that, it started to settle into more local acts. We have, since the first one, had other national acts. but it's become, and I think this is important, it's become a showcase for local musicians by and large.
Our second venue was at the Boyce Park Ski Lodge. In fact, our artist was Lisa Farrar.
I had just recorded my second jazz recording. I got the performance opportunity to play at Phipps Conservatory for one of their summer concert series. It was packed. And Chuck Somerville walked over to me and he said, "Have you ever heard of the Monroeville Jazz Festival?" And I hadn't. And I said, "I think I remembered from last year. It's fairly new, right?" And he's like, "You're going to be the headliner next year." So that's the first time I met him. So he's like that. He sees the vision and he'll tell you, you're in it. It's not like you've got an option on this. And I said, "Sure, okay." And that was it. We just kind of clicked. And Chuck is a pretty persuasive guy. When he's got a great idea, he can get it done. And he did.
Her instrument, her voice is wonderful, it's impeccable. But what makes a jazz singer is the phrasing, is the pause between words, where you add inflection, where you add emphasis, where you add emotion. And Lisa has all of that, like the great ones do.
What did I do, don't you know? I thought about you.
But yeah, it started to really pick up. It was catching on and people were enjoying it. And yeah, more people started to come.
So we performed at the wave pool, and then we outgrew that. I can still remember Allegheny County Police showing up in my face one time and said, "You got to get these people off Old Frankstown Road," because we had 10 miles of cars in there. So we moved to the soccer field, and then this became available. So we've been here for many, many years.
The municipality owns the Tall Trees Amphitheater here at Monroeville Community Park West, which is a fantastic facility for live music.
This was a huge difference. This is just an absolutely perfect place for an outdoor show. The sound system is always top notch. It's a natural amphitheater, and the sound is just perfect for it.
People have asked me over the years, wasn't it a lot of fun and pretty easy to put together a festival? I said, it was a lot of fun, but it was certainly not easy. And after 15 years, well, my wife and I decided that was it. We're going to have to turn it over to somebody. I can remember standing right about over here, the Rise, talking to Tim Little. And he said, "This is a great festival you put together." I said, "Yeah, Tim, but unfortunately it's the last one." He said, "What do you mean the last one?" I said, "This is a year-round operation. I'm not getting younger, and I'd like to turn this over to somebody else."
And Tim said, "Let me talk to Ernie Groover. He's president of the Monroeville Foundation." And Tim and I talked about it, and I says, "Absolutely," because we didn't want to lose it. We're looking for ways to bring people together. We were already doing the Monroeville Community Day. We had the Monroeville golf outing. So this was a great complement to the types of things that we were doing in the community.
We've seen people that are young, Pittsburgh jazz artists who are young and breaking into the business, getting some of their first big exposure on this stage in this beautiful amphitheater right here. And they are, in many cases, are following a tradition that was set more than 100 years now. Every ballpark 5 to 7 years, there was a change in jazz, and the catalyst for that change so very often was a Pittsburgher.
We have a way of doing it that is signature to our region, which is really a lovely thing to fully realize as an artist. Our approach to it is a little different, unique to each individual, but as a whole, there's a thing, the Pittsburghese of jazz, dare I say. I mean, we really have a unique sound that I'm really proud of, to be a part of that rich tradition.
From Earl Father Hines to Mary Lou Williams to Roy Eldridge to drummers like Art Blakey and Ray Brown, the legendary bassist, and Stanley Turrentine, the saxophonist. There have been Pittsburghers who moved jazz into new directions. Billy Strayhorn And that's just a little bit of Western Pennsylvania's contribution, and just a little bit of a huge amount of contributions to the evolution of jazz over the years. And what we have here in Monroeville every summer is very much a part of that.
Yeah, mentorship is the key, and I think our region has that. It's in ourselves. We just give back because we love it so much, we want it to survive.
I try to teach my students, you know, you might have the greatest voice in the world, but if you're not connecting with whoever's listening to you, if you don't know what you're singing about, if you don't bring those words, make those words alive, you know, it doesn't really mean anything. You can do vocal gymnastics and go all over the place, and you know, and it's, to me, this is just me speaking, it's almost meaningless if you're not really connecting and it's not true. It's not coming from your heart.
You know, I'll tell it to you this way. We say that jazz, born in America, alive in Monroeville. And since there's so many different genres to jazz, you have a little something for everyone. We bring in people from literally all over Allegheny County, Westmoreland County, and even Ohio and New York. It's unreal how many people really appreciate an opportunity to come out for a day of great music at literally no cost.
Well, I think Monroeville, Pittsburgh, some of the most enthusiastic, loyal fans in the world. I mean, they're music lovers everywhere, but there's something unique about the crowd in Monroeville, Pittsburgh area that is just so open-hearted.
That's tough to put a finger on, and different people would perhaps highlight different aspects of it. I think music itself is integral to the human condition. When we're infants, before we talk, before we form words, we sing. And when we first stand up, we dance. Music is the most human thing there is, other than love. And you know, a lot of people will tell you that love and music are the same thing too.
It's a fantastic opportunity for people to come together. Good people, young, old, look to get your spot and just sit back and enjoy great music all afternoon.
You know, it just keeps growing. As it evolves, it's gonna have different people with different sensibilities. That's what I think I like about it. It's like jazz itself. It just keeps growing and exploring.
I hope it continues to showcase local up-and-coming talent on their way to bigger stages across the country and around the world. And I hope we occasionally bring in some national acts that we would perhaps not otherwise get a chance to see up close and personal.
Over the next 20 years, the sky's the limit.